Okay, so here we are with the Schwabe Digital HiFAL. Now this is a fantastic thing for dealing with harshness, and what we have up till now is a bunch of plugins starting with Soothe and followed on from that. Various companies did their own versions of that. The idea being that it's kind of like a dynamic EQ that works on lots and lots of EQ points, you know, many spectral E points, and some of them use other spectral processing, but whatever it is, there are different methods of detecting resonances and pulling them down without affecting the overall sound, or affecting the overall sound as little as possible while pulling down, for example, harshness. And they are, some of them, Soothe is a good example of that, very effective at doing that. I use Soothe all the time, it's really useful. But it does change the sound a bit, and sometimes that's not quite right for what you're after. And if you've got something that's really harsh, I often find with Soothe, although it's excellent, by the time I've really pulled back that harshness, it also sounds like something's been done to it. It's kind of, it doesn't sound bad, it just sounds substantially different than it did, not just less harsh. If you use it mildly, fine, it doesn't have that kind of artifact, but if you need to really pull back on something that's significantly harsh, it does have an effect. And I find it's the same with the other ones that I've used. I've tried a number of them that all have a similar kind of effect. This one is different. HiFAL is different. It uses a very different method. I don't know what the technical details are behind the scenes, but it really sounds more natural. It pulls back on the harshness, and even if you pull back pretty extremely, it doesn't sound like it's been done, something's been done to it. It just sounds less harsh. It's quite remarkable, I find. Not only that, but you can push up the highs after having tamed them. You can actually increase them, and it still doesn't sound harsh. So, pretty amazing piece of software using really different, as far as I can tell, very different technology from the other ones that are out there. So we're going to have a look at this and have a listen to it. Creating these videos takes significant time and effort. Supporters of the channel make it possible for me to continue to make more. If you find these videos useful and interesting, I invite you to support the channel. There are a range of things you can do. You can make a direct donation of any amount, become a monthly patron, buy some of my music, or buy some merchandise. I also have a range of courses available that cover all essential aspects of mixing, from getting started right up to advanced techniques. Links to everything are in the video description below. And finally, click that like and subscribe button. Thanks. I'll start with just going through the controls. So I've got the sound turned down so you won't hear anything, but it's playing through here. So you can see here how audio is coming through here. And this area here is the part that is being reduced, where the highs are being reduced. And you've got two sections here, and you've got a similar thing over here on the right, but the sections are different. Two sections, one on the left, one on the right. And I'll just roughly explain what this does. On the left-hand side, you've basically got something that tames the highs. But you can also bring up those tamed highs, and we'll look at that in a second. On the right, you've got a different processor that's completely different, and it's a limiter that is like a parallel limiter that's based again on the highs, so you can bring up the highs in a different way, limited, a version of the highs that's been limited. So again, it's not, you may not use it every time, but it's a thing that's there if you need it. So, and this does deal pretty much with the high end. The further, it goes down to the mids, down to 1 kilohertz, but not below that. And the highs, you can go right the way up to 20 kilohertz. So it's kind of upper mids and highs. So it's more of a kind of, I would say, tonal device, almost like an EQ in a sense, because you're limiting it. So you're kind of like, you know, squashing the transients and kind of squashing these together, and then in parallel, just bringing it up a little bit. So you're kind of reinforcing, thickening that area of the frequency spectrum with a limited version of it, a bit like parallel compression, but parallel limiting. But the main feature here, at least from my view, is this section here, which is all about taming the highs. So I'm just going to quickly go through here. This is the frequency spectrum. You can drag either of these and it limits the area where the limiting is going to, where the suppression is going to be. Between these two marks here, between these two lines is where it's happening. Outside of it, beyond this, which is set to 12K right now, nothing's going to happen. And below this, which is set to 1.6K, nothing's going to happen. It's all going to happen in here. And you can just slide these around freely. You can click on them to solo and listen to what's going on in this section here. And this one, you listen to what is above it that you're not affecting. So that's the kind of frequency selection part. This is like your threshold. And it's got a link. You can link the two together, or you can move them separately if you want to affect the left and right separately, or M and S. If you want to go mid-side, you can affect the mid and the side separately, or you can link the two together. You've got an attack, fast and slow, release, fast and slow, and that just changes the effect of it. You just have to try that and see what works better for different materials. You've got an oversampling here, and which I'll put on high for the moment. And then you've got a channel link. And this, obviously, like a compressor or a limiter, it links the channels left and right to whatever degree. And they use a different method of channel linking than most, which doesn't affect the stereo field as much when you have it unlinked. So you really just need to play around with this and see what gives you the effect you're after. So I've set this up for some percussion, and I'm going to play the percussion now. Just so you can hear what it's like without the limiter, and you can hear it's pretty toppy and kind of harsh. And then I'm going to click this in and you can hear what effect it has. So you can hear it really tames that harshness. And I've got it, it's hitting the meters pretty hard, and you could pull it back as much as you like just with these two controls here. But it does a fantastically natural sounding effect. It just sounds less harsh. You're not getting any of those kind of artifacts like that. A thing has been done to it, if you see what I mean. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the top end. Even though it's been tamed, I'm going to bring up the tamed high end. So just have a listen to what I mean by that. I'm going to take it out, bring it in, and then bring it up here. So you can hear that kind of really restores the brightness of it, but it now sounds a lot less harsh, even though it sounds nice and bright. Now I actually think it's better without boosting that in this case, as much as I have boosted it here, but I boosted it quite a bit just so you can hear the effect of the fact that you're bringing those highs back up that have been kind of reduced, and yet it sounds significantly less harsh. So that, to me, but very natural sounding. So that's impressive. I'll play around a bit now with this limiter so you can see what that's like. So I'll switch that on. If you have this set down here at 0, what it does is it limits to the same degree that you're getting happening here. And if you want to limit it further, you can bring this up. But I'm going to just leave it like this because it's going to be limited to the same degree that I've got the threshold here, which is pretty strong. It's affecting it pretty strongly, and I might well not do it as strongly as this, but just for demonstration purposes. can you hear that, how that kind of excites the sound? It brings up more kind of prominence to the highs without any of that harshness coming back. It's quite remarkable, this thing. It really is. I've not heard anything able to do anything like this before, where you can actually tame the highs and bring them back up and even kind of thicken that high end by using this in a way that sounds very natural. And if you wanted it that bright, you can get it really just as bright and prominent in those same frequencies, but all that harshness is taken away. Now, I just would not get these results with anything like Soothe or the Waves ones or any of the other ones. There's a bunch of other ones out there, Sonable and other ones. They all do their thing, but it's none of them do what anything like what this does. And to me, the thing that's really special about this is just the naturalness of it. It just sounds like those things were recorded in a less harsh way. So, extremely impressive, I would say. Okay, so let's have a listen to a saxophone here, which is quite harsh sounding. It's just the way it was mic'd up, the position of the mic, the choice of the mic is making it sound quite harsh. So let's just have a listen to that, and then I'm going to bring in HiFAL, and you can hear what it does with that. You can hear how it really kind of is quite harsh on the ear when it sustains and pushes on those notes. And again, at the end, like in the beginning, there's this held note that's really quite harsh on the ear. And then at the end, it also gets harsh in the kind of higher frequencies. So listen one more time, and then I'm going to put in the HiFAL. So you can hear how it really tames it, but in a way that sounds really natural, not the result that you'd get from the other types of resonance suppression plugins out there. So again, I'm not going to name the one that I tried before using this, but I can tell you that the results were dramatically different, and this one sounds much more natural sounding. So I boosted up the highs quite a bit to begin with, so that it was about as bright as it was before adding the processing, and it still sound much smoother and much less harsh. But I actually thought it sounded really great without the added push on the high frequencies. It sounded really nice and natural, just like they'd used a better microphone, a more appropriate microphone, and positioned it a bit better. Okay, so finally here we have a flute. And this is pretty piercing, as flutes sometimes can be when they're played with a lot of gusto. So we're going to hear this without, and then I'm going to bring it in. So you can hear how well this tames it. Now I'm pulling it back a lot for the sake of demonstration purposes. I probably wouldn't pull back anything like this hard on it, but just so you can hear what this is capable of, really tames those piercing resonances. And I find piercing flutes is one of the hardest things to tame. And this does it brilliantly. So I would say if anything can do that, it's, you know, it's got my vote, as it were, because it's really tricky to get those resonances out of a flute. This just does it so well, and it sounds so natural. It sounds, again, like it was recorded with a different microphone and maybe in a different position a bit further back, and maybe that microphone was a bit close, and maybe it was a microphone that wasn't quite the right kind for a flute. It also darkened it. Now, you can bring up the trim, and that will brighten it up again, but instead of doing that, I brought up the limiter, limiting it quite hard because it's already being limited quite a bit. The limiter takes its threshold from the threshold here, but I drove the threshold even harder to create a kind of exciter sort of effect, which I then brought up underneath to give it that breathiness back that had kind of been pulled back from the suppression. And again, just have a listen. I'll compare bringing up the limiter and adding the trim back in, just so you can hear the difference there. So you can hear the difference between boosting here and here. Just a different effect. Depending on the circumstance, you might find one of them works better than the other. I thought in this circumstance they both worked nicely in different ways. And of course, this is out of context in the mix. It would sound different and so forth. But overall, this is an amazing plugin. I'm really just full of praise for it, because it really does bring something new to the table. I've not heard anything like this before that can tame that degree of harshness without it sounding, without any artifacts. I mean, it darkens it slightly, or you can bring that back up if you want, but the artifacts, there's just no artifacts. It just sounds smooth, really nice, not like you've done anything to it, not like it's had a whole load of spectral gubbins done on it. Not that I'm saying the other, you know, the more traditional resonance suppressing things sound bad at all. They don't, but I don't find anything I know of works as well as this one. And if you push it hard enough that it's suppressing to this degree, it really sounds like it sounds processed, heavily processed, and this doesn't. So amazing. And I think the applications for this are probably far and wide, even on whole mixes. I think this could be great for mastering if you've got a mix that's harsh, because it just sounds so natural and doesn't sound like there's any kind of weird processing going on. So, fantastic job by Schwabe Digital. Huge congratulations on this, and highly recommended from me. So, if you found this video useful, please do give the video a like and subscribe. And if you can help the channel by pressing the thanks button, that's really appreciated and helps the channel keep going. And hope to see you next time.